Good afternoon and welcome to Programmer's Paradise WebEx Spotlight on Messaging, sponsored by Quest Software. This afternoon we're going to hear Rob Sargent tell us about the Spotlight on Messaging product and how it's used for real-time diagnostics and problem resolution for messaging for an Exchange server, BlackBerry Enterprise server, and on OCS. Before that, I'd like to briefly cover our agenda for this afternoon. First, we're going to just do a little introduction on who Programmer's Paradise is, and then we're going to get right into Rob's presentation and his demonstration of the Spotlight product. Following his session, we'll come back and have a question-and-answer session where you'll be able to ask any questions of Rob on the product, and then we'll wrap up and hopefully we'll get back to work. So to kick off then, who's Programmer's Paradise? We're a leading reseller of developer and infrastructure tools, and in particular we represent Quest Solutions to support those products and other products. We have a range of database modeling and infrastructure design and training services, and we also have for companies who are struggling in these economic times, we have a great flexible payment option program. So if there's any interest, please let us know. We look at our products in terms of what we call our worldview solutions portfolio. Today we're talking about the Spotlight on Messaging product that fits in our application network infrastructure portfolio. We also have portfolios for application lifecycle management, virtualization, security, database, business continuity, and disaster recovery. This series of webinars this is the second in the series. In the first series, we talked about the Spotlight on Oracle, and in the next session, we're going to talk about Spotlight on SQL Server. Okay, so that's enough about who Programmer's Paradise is. And now I'd like to hand you over to Rob Sargent. Rob is going to go through his presentation and also give us a demonstration of his great tool. Okay, Rob, over to you.
Great, thanks very much, and welcome to everybody that's on the webcast today. We're excited about this somewhat new product that we've just recently released, and I'll give you a little bit of history on where it's come from and what it does. Again, I'm Rob Sargent, a product manager at Quest, and my main job here is to basically figure out what this product needs to do, prioritize future enhancements moving forward, and we do that in a number of ways. Of course, we look at the market and see what customers need. We also work very closely with Microsoft and other partners such as RIM in order to understand the applications as best as possible, where those platform providers are going, and try to produce tools that complement what they do and provide that added benefit to you as customers. So the Spotlight tool has had a bit of a history with us. We've been selling Spotlight on Messaging for or Spotlight on Exchange for a number of years, and I guess probably 6 or 7 years. What we have now is a product called Spotlight on Messaging, which is really the new version of that product, which expands its capabilities out in a number of ways. Obviously, we've been doing Exchange troubleshooting and diagnostics for a number of years, and we've greatly enhanced the functionality within this new Spotlight on Messaging product. But we've also added some significant functionality for BlackBerry servers and for Office Communication Server as well. Now, I'm just having a difficulty with the presentation, so someone could just help me bring up the Spotlight presentation. There it is. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. So why Spotlight on Messaging? Well, really what this product does is recognize that messaging systems are really critical to customers of all sizes. Messaging is used in a number of ways now. in terms of not only just for internal communications and workflows, but even especially for customer orders. Obviously, there's support departments use messaging in a number of ways. And when systems, messaging systems are having issues, that affects your business incredibly, whether it's just from a general customer service point of view or reputation perspective, but also it could hit your bottom line in terms of revenue, extra costs that may be required in order to troubleshoot and diagnose issues. So when a messaging system goes down, there are significant impacts to business processes and productivity. The trouble is with most of the tools that provide messaging capabilities, such as Exchange or BlackBerry Enterprise Server, they do a great job at what they were designed to do. That's transfer messages, keep people informed as to what's going on in their environment. From a mobility perspective, say for BlackBerry to be able to provide that those messages in near real time to what's happening on the Exchange system itself. But those tools don't have a lot of detailed troubleshooting capabilities built in. So when something goes wrong in the messaging environment, it's really difficult using those tools to pinpoint exactly what's happened, and therefore in order to determine what steps are required in order to address and solve that problem. So when you deal with products like Exchange, BlackBerry, or Office Communication Server, there's not a great deal of information in there that will help you identify root causes and move ahead. Certainly there's nothing in those tools that helps to provide you a view across your messaging infrastructure to see what's happening. So the solution that we've come up with is a product, again, called Spotlight on Messaging, which provides troubleshooting, diagnostics, and problem resolution for Exchange, BlackBerry, and Office Communication Server, all from the one tool. So you have a comprehensive view of what's going on in your UC infrastructure, and we have diagnostics and troubleshooting for all of those three different technologies. Again, as I mentioned before, we had a Spotlight on Exchange product for a number of years. The Exchange component of Spotlight on Messaging has been greatly enhanced. Plus, we've used that experience and user interface that's been successful from Spotlight on Exchange to build out additional components for BlackBerry and for OCS. So the main benefits to what this product does for you is it really accelerates problem resolution. It significantly reduces that time to resolution when an outage occurs, and also helps to really pinpoint slowdowns or issues that are happening in your environment that need to be optimized. There's always a performance bottleneck somewhere, but when you start addressing issues that you hear from your user base saying that so-and-so is complaining that their mail is really slow today, or instant messaging doesn't seem to be catching up with what they're doing. It's important to have something that drills down deeply into that environment to provide information, not only when things go bad, but when there are those standard complaints that you hear from time to time. So this is a tool that helps you to improve system performance and really maximizes the availability and responsiveness of your messaging servers. Quest has tools in a number of areas. Really, this Spotlight on Messaging product is really focused on the management side for troubleshooting and diagnostics, and something you can use on a regular basis to make sure that your messaging system is up and running and finely tuned. The one thing I'll just highlight on this slide, though, is we also use Spotlight on Messaging in migration scenarios as well. So if you're moving to Exchange from other platforms such as Notes or GroupWise, or especially if you're moving from an earlier version of Exchange to a new version of Exchange, and you're bringing up new servers, it's important to know that those new servers are handling the additional load that is occurring on a daily basis, maybe an hourly basis during your migration, to understand that the messaging system is still functioning the way that you planned it out in your labs ahead of time. So the main differentiators for this product in the market is, of course, that it provides that cross-platform view into your environment across Exchange, BlackBerry, and OCS from that one tool. Having one tool to be able to provide all that information makes things so much easier for our customers. Certainly simplifies administration. Your admins only need to learn and understand that one product with the same look and feel across those technologies. You only need to buy one tool and maintain one tool and look after one tool moving forward. What we've done in this product is combine all the help and problem resolution steps from Microsoft and RIM into the one easy-to-use interface. So not only do we identify issues that are happening in your environment, but we also provide the most likely steps that will allow you to solve this problem in the least amount of time. And again, there's no other comprehensive OCS diagnostics and troubleshooting tool on the market today. Some of the key features in Spotlight on messaging, I'm going to quickly go over them now, then we'll look at some quick screenshots and move into a product demonstration. We have a topology viewer that is used for understanding what components are in your environment in kind of a network map type of layout, and that is where we have color coding available to allow you to understand when things are going well and when things aren't going well. We use obviously green colors for when things are looking good. When tests are run against servers and everything's fine, then those servers appear green on the screen. When things start turning yellow, there are some warning thresholds that have been exceeded, and when things turn red, that's definitely something you want to look at because there are some error thresholds that have been exceeded. Again, we produce those halos on those servers in the network topology using health tests. We have a number of health tests for Exchange and for BlackBerry and for OCS, standard things like server health tests and message delivery health tests and storage health and so on. We'll spend a little bit of time looking at those in a moment. One of the key characteristics of Spotlight on messaging and across all of our Spotlight products is our diagnostic console, which allows you to drill down into a particular server and understand exactly which component on that server is experiencing some problems, and we'll give you a demonstration of that. In that diagnostic console, we have some detailed drill downs to understand recent activity on that particular component. And across the product, we've built in, as I said before, expert help that give you the steps required to quickly resolve issues. In this release of Spotlight on Messaging, we spent a considerable amount of time building out some web reports as well that you can schedule and to run on a regular basis and fire off reports to yourself or to your CTO or whoever needs to have some sort of metrics on how the messaging environment has been running over time. Conceptually, Spotlight on Messaging is that one tool now that sits in your environment and simultaneously can keep an eye on your BlackBerry, OCS, and Exchange environments, let you know when something is wrong, but again, the strength of the tool is being able to provide the information to understand exactly what is happening, what the problem area is, and being able to go and address that right away instead of taking steps to go to a server and say, gee, I wonder if it's this, I wonder if it's disk space, oh, I wonder if the services are down, I wonder if, and you go through a number of normal steps if you don't have a tool, and it might take some considerable time to identify the specific root cause. But what our tool does, as we'll show you in a moment, is help to pinpoint that specifically. So we'll start off with a few quick screenshots before the demo. This is our topology viewer. This happens to be our topology viewer for an office communication server environment that we have in one of our labs. And you can see that on the larger part of the pane, there are a number of servers that are listed, and most of them have green halos around them, and that identifies that the tests that are running periodically against those servers are indicating that everything is up and running fine. When you start to see a server turning yellow, or as you can see in the right-hand pool, a server that's gone red, that's an indicator, a visual indicator that there's something that needs to be looked at on those servers. Now, this topology viewer is the part of the application that most companies have up and running 24/7. A number of companies would have this on a screen in your help desk area or network operations center. Of course, we have notifications that fire off these tests to let administrators know in more detail what's happening. But this is the tool that allows some visual options to identify which component in the environment may be having some difficulties. Again, we run health tests against the environment, against certain parts of Exchange, certain parts of BlackBerry, and certain parts of Office Communication Server. This is showing a screen of test results that have happened. So we provide some detailed information on every counter that we are looking at during the test, disk space, network availability, services, and also we look at event log entries to give you an idea as to whether there's something that needs attention. These tests are run through, are set up through a wizard, and again can be scheduled to run at your convenience. The diagnostic console, again, is the key, one of the key points of Spotlight on messaging. This is not the 24/7 part, but this is the component that you can fire up when you believe that there might be something going wrong on a particular server. And as you can see, we use the same visual cues that when something, a component on the, this happens to be a BlackBerry Enterprise Server diagnostic console. So these are all the different BES components. You can see the different BES services on the left-hand side as they're listed, as well as other subsystem components and other parts related to standard BlackBerry Enterprise Server installations. When items are green, then everything's up and running fine. When they start to turn yellow, the thresholds have been exceeded, warning thresholds, and when things turn red, then you have an error threshold that's been exceeded. When you first fire up a diagnostic console against a particular server, we have what we call calibration that can be set to run, whether it's for an hour or multiple hours, to get an idea of exactly what the type of normal activity is on this particular server. So, and that calibration will help to tweak the warning thresholds and error thresholds unique to this particular machine. Although, of course, you have the ability to go in and set those manually however you'd like. And the last screenshot we'll take a look at is our web reports engine. We have a number of reports that we've built out for BlackBerry and for Exchange and for Office Communication Server especially. This is the same type of report engine that our award-winning Message Stats product also uses. So if you have Message Stats in your environment, you'll be really familiar with this look and feel. The reports usually have a graphical interface when they're run to give you some sort of chart as to visually show you trends and forecasting, and there's an accompanying data set that goes with that. So let's move over and do a quick run through of the application itself. So what you should be seeing now is the standard Spotlight on Messaging screen as it appears when you first install. There are three different panes. The left-hand pane is more of an inventory type pane or configuration pane where you would set up connections to Exchange organizations and Office Communication Server environments where the tests that you create would all be listed and can be run from. You can set up on the left-hand side here, we have some global settings. So if you want to determine who needs to be notified for different tests, they're set up there. If there are alternate credentials that need to be used for some tests on some specific servers, then these are, again, global settings that can be done in order to tweak each test as to how you need it to run. In the center pane is where our topology viewer will appear once we connect to an Exchange organization in just a moment. And on the right-hand pane, we'll refer back to this from time to time, is more of our action area where you can take steps to connect to environments, or once we connect to Exchange and to OCS, where you can fire up native tools such as BlackBerry Manager or the Exchange admin tools. So let's first connect to an Exchange organization. So I can do that in a number of ways. The center pane, I have a link here to the dialog box for connecting to Exchange. And in this lab environment, we have a specific Exchange environment that I'm going to connect into. Now, I've done that, you can see that a new Exchange organization is showing up on the left-hand side. It kind of leaves me in the center pane in case I want to go to Office Communications Server and connect to an OCS environment or to a BlackBerry environment and configure that as well. What I'm going to do is just click on the Exchange org 2K7 native that we've already attached to, and what comes up in the center pane is the topology viewer. So this topology viewer is customizable in terms of how you want to lay it out. What most customers will need to do once it comes up in the showing the default site group is to move servers around however you'd like to tweak it. When you move a server around, the site boundaries change. You can see that there are already halos showing on these on some of these servers. That's because this is a lab environment and we've already run tests against that environment. But if we look at some of these servers on the right-hand side, we have two BlackBerry Enterprise servers, NatBez1 and NatBez2, that are part of this environment. You can see that there's no halos at all. So that would normally indicate that no tests have been run against the BlackBerry servers as of yet. Servers that are showing green, such as this Edge server at the top, again indicate that everything with that server is fine based on the thresholds that you've set as part of the tests. Servers that are showing the yellow halo mean that there are some warning thresholds that have been exceeded, and red means that there are some error thresholds that have been exceeded. Servers that have a gray halo would usually indicate that that server has been inaccessible when that last test went to run. So maybe it's offline or is in a site that wasn't accessible from the Spotlight on Messaging server. So could be an indicator of something that may need to be looked at. So when you have this environment in this way, the first thing you're going to want to do is set up a number of tests. Now on the left-hand side, we have a test folder, and you can see some of the tests that we've already had listed out. Actually, if I also expand out the Exchange organization up here, you can see all the different servers that are included. We show, you may have noticed that we show the Exchange servers and the BlackBerry servers all within the same topology viewer because of the close relationship that those servers have to the same type of roles. In a moment when we show you the Office Communications Server topology viewer, you'll notice that it's separate from this one because the OCS environment is fairly complicated if you've already had experience setting up one of those. So I can run a number of tests in this environment. If I right-click on the org itself and go down to Detect, you can see the list of Exchange tests and BlackBerry tests that I could choose from to run at the org level. So if I choose, for instance, an Exchange server health test to run, it will run against all of the Exchange servers that I've chosen in the environment. I'll just click off that for a second. In the topology viewer, for example, I could right-click on mailbox role, and I could run that test on a server-by-server basis. And there are times when you'll want to run tests against a number of servers or maybe all servers, so you could do that at the org level. Again, you can run it at a server-by-server level if there's something unique on that environment. Or we also have the ability for you to create your own groups. So you could create a custom group with just a select subset of servers that you're keenly interested in, and therefore just run a test against those particular servers. So no matter how you run a test, it's pretty straightforward. Let's say I go to this mailbox role server and say, okay, I want to run an Exchange server health test. What I want to show you through this process is this is the new server health test wizard that pops up. Pretty straightforward to run through. On the left-hand side, we have a number of steps that we're going to walk through page by page. So we're on the General Test Information tab first, where we can name the test. If I click Next, we go down to the test parameters. So basically, what schedule do we want to run this on? Which notification group do I want to let know about this test? And I can have multiple groups to choose from. If this server or group of servers needs specific or different credentials than the default credentials that I entered during installation, then I can go and choose different credentials at that point. Now, if I click Next, you can see this is for, we have different tabs for Exchange 2003, 2003, and 2007 servers. And the reason for that is that if you're running this from the org level or a group level, then there could be multiple servers from all different versions involved. So as you go through and you can identify different services, warning and error thresholds, performance counters, and of course there's a whole ton of event log entries as they scroll down that you can configure thresholds for as well. So again, you just go click the next button to move from tab to tab and go down, and you'll see a summary before you decide to go ahead and run this test. Now, looking here at the execution schedule, I've set it for every 10 minutes. Again, you could change that. If I go back to the general test information, sorry, the test settings, let's just run this now. So I'll say to run once, I'll click finish, and this test now gets created down at the bottom of the test list, and I'll just click on it to bring up information on what's happening on this, and we can see that there's an error that's occurred. So if I click on that server in the test list above, at the bottom I can scroll down and find out that there's one specific counter that we've looked at that has exceeded the error threshold, and that's why the test has indicated to me that there's something wrong. Now, obviously not everything's wrong in that server, but there is one component that I need to go and take a look at. So if I was to take a look at that server, if I go back to the topology viewer, the mailbox role server is having an issue at this point in time, and I can right-click and say diagnose and launch the diagnostic console from this point. Now, this is just a caveat as part of this demonstration. When I bring up the diagnostic console, because we're working off some recorded data, we're not necessarily going to see the same error occurring on the server. But just to give you an idea what the diagnostic console looks like, it gives, again, indication of when something is working well. All the counters look green. When something is not showing up properly, then or exceeded a warning threshold, will turn yellow and then turn red if there's another issue. Now, this is just a mailbox-only server. If we look in the top right-hand corner where all the different possible exchange roles are identified, only the mailbox server role is identified, and therefore the number of counters that we're looking at, or the components that we're looking at on this server, are limited to what a normal mailbox server would identify with. Most of these counters have the ability to not only have the tip text that shows up, but when I click on it, it'll bring me to some deeper drill down information to identify some recent history with respect to those counters. Again, in this lab environment, not a lot of thrilling information here, but more or less just to demonstrate that on the diagnostic console that you have the ability to get some deep information when an issue is occurring at any particular time. Let me just minimize that for a second. I'm going to go back to the main console, and let's take a look at OCS just for a moment. So if I just minimize down the Exchange environment and go back to the main Spotlight on Messaging page, I'm going to go over to Office Communication Server, and I'm going to connect to an OCS environment that we have set up in our lab. We've already pre-connected to one here, SPOCS1. So when I click Connect, again, we go out and do an immediate discovery based on that environment information that I provided, and you can see that a new OCS environment is now showing up in the left-hand tree. If I expand that out, you can see it's a fairly full environment because we need to test in our labs just about every type of configuration issue that there is. When I click on the environment itself, up comes the topology viewer that we have in our lab related to OCS, and you can see how involved our development lab looks like. We have a couple of different pools that are showing up, and again, I can move these pools around by moving servers or totally configuring the environment. In the OCS area, you can see that there's a number of links that help identify which components are related to other components. So there's a database component behind the ARC1 archiving component of one of these front-end servers. So the OCS environment topology viewer works very similar to the Exchange environment. I can right-click on any of these servers and go and run the OCS server health test. Now you may say, well, you only have one test for OCS. Yeah, but when we bring it up, you can see that it's fairly complicated. There's a number of different tabs that you can run through to identify specific counters depending on the specific server role that these servers have. Now, even though this server may not have all of those roles installed, what you'd normally do is just go and configure the counters for the role that this server is handling in your environment, and when the test runs, the application understands which roles are installed and therefore only fires off against those counters. So the OCS environment right now focuses on server health tests. You can see now in the action area on the right-hand side, I could have started the test from here. I can also launch the OCS Administrator console from this interface as well. So we've talked about topology viewers and how they identify whether there's something going wrong in the environment. Health tests are run through the admin console and show halos in the topology viewer. One thing we haven't really talked about yet is the web reports area. So let me just quickly bring that up. I mentioned before that the web reports are generally run, or the engine in the background that runs on web reports is the same as in our message stats tool. You just flip the screen around here so we have a little bit more room. And you can see we have a number of reports that are available for BlackBerry and for Exchange. And we built out a fairly large number of tests for OCS. I won't expand the whole thing out, but the OCS tests, especially in this first version of this product, are focusing on configuration setup, which is the biggest issue that OCS administrators face, making sure that the environment is set up the way it's supposed to. And we'll continue to build out reports moving forward that help to understand utilization across the messaging environment. So like any test, if I bring up, say, a CPU utilization test for Exchange, this is the standard looking reports engine that we have in both Spotlight on Messaging and Message Stats. We get a filter screen where we can go through and decide, well, okay, do I want to run it on all servers, or maybe there's a specific server that I want to focus in on, or a specific routing group or admin group, and I can decide how granularly I want to see the data, whether it's every hour or by day. I'm just going to set the default, let's say, to see what data is in here for this month for CPU utilization. When I click Apply Filters, the report runs, and again, we get a report back with a graphical representation of the data at the top, showing all the different servers that we have recorded data for, and there's always an underlying data set at the bottom. And with that data set, you can do a number of things with it. I'm just going to right-click on the second column header. You can see that I can sort ascending or descending. I can insert a number of fields that perhaps we didn't think should be included at the outset in this report, but they are data sets sitting in the background that you could add in at any point in time. So if I click on, say, admin group, should be some data that comes back. I guess that data is blank in this labs scenario. But you get the point that you can manipulate the data on the fly. When you run these reports, it only goes against the Spotlight on Messaging database, and then we never go live into the Exchange environment because we don't want to put any risk or load on the environment in that way. So that's an overview of the Spotlight on Messaging console. You connect to your Exchange and BlackBerry and OCS environments, set up a number of tests that you want to run, set the thresholds for those and the schedules. You'll be notified when those thresholds are exceeded, and through the topology viewer you can have an idea of across your environment as to how the environment is running as a whole, and you can run the diagnostic console on specific servers. So let's go back to the presentation. One last thing I want to touch on is that I mentioned before, we've been selling Spotlight on Exchange for years and years. So you may be a Spotlight on Exchange customer, and you're looking at Spotlight on Messaging and thinking, wow, I really want to use this new tool. What do I need to do to make that happen? Well, if you are a Spotlight on Exchange customer and you're current on maintenance, you'll likely get a free upgrade to Spotlight on Messaging. There are some caveats to that, and your main first step is to just contact your program or sales rep to discuss that option. Spotlight on Messaging uses brand new license keys and so you'll need new keys before you do any kind of upgrade or installation of Spotlight on Messaging in your environment. We also only license Spot on Messaging per mailbox. Spotlight on Exchange before, we sold it a couple of ways. It was per mailbox, or we sold per server licenses. So the per mailbox upgrade conversion is pretty straightforward, so one-to-one. If you have per server licenses, then you need to speak to your programmer sales rep to work through a process to identify how many mailbox licenses you'd be entitled to moving forward for Spotlight on Messaging. The two products are actually quite different from each other in terms of how they were built. We essentially built Spotlight on Messaging from the ground up using the same kind of expertise that we had from Spotlight on Exchange, but the two products actually use different services on your machines, use different database names, and the web reports engines are pointing to different spots. So you can actually install Spotlight on Exchange and Spotlight on Messaging on the same server if you'd like. We don't have because they're so different, we don't have a direct upgrade path from Spotlight on Exchange, but there are ways to migrate some of the data out of Spotlight on Exchange. So for instance, some of the data collection templates can be converted into Exchange Server Health Tests, and we can also migrate over some of the Exchange Diagnostic Console templates to the newer Diagnostic Console for Exchange and Spotlight on Messaging. And we have some documentation that's available to help you with that. So again, if you want to move to Spotlight on Messaging and you already have Spotlight on Exchange, talk to your programmer sales rep and they'll start walking through that process with you. A couple of other slides before we get to the questions and answers area. With Quest, our track record in this in the messaging management business speaks for itself. I mean, we've spent the last 8 years providing solutions to migrate to Exchange and to manage Exchange, and have satisfied thousands of customers and millions of end users. And as you can see by the awards there, we have the industry support to back up those claims. The success of our business strategy can be seen as you look at our consistent growth trend over the years. We're a stable company, a very viable company and global, and we're here to support you and work with you. As we definitely maintain partnerships with the other companies that create and work with your strategic platforms. If you're looking for more information on Spotlight on Messaging, you can go to the programmers.com website. The direct product website on quest.com is quest.com/spotlight-on-messaging. And with that, that concludes the presentation part. I'd love to take some questions from you, so I'll turn it back over and see what questions we may have in the queue.
Okay, thanks very much, Rob. So at this time, we're open to questions. So if you'd like to either raise your electronic hand or send us a question through the chat panel or the Q&A panel. And I'm sure Rob will be happy to answer them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we don't have any questions yet. Oh, here we go. This is from Ron Smith. Are alert notifications sent through the same Exchange service?
Yeah, we use the SMTP service, and the obvious question with that is well, you know, why would you use Exchange to notify if Exchange is down? Well, in this product, of course, it's a multi-platform product, so the problems may not necessarily be Exchange issues. So we do use SMTP for sending out notifications, but we can also use SNMP and other methods as well.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Rob? Oh, Ron Smith, that answered his question. And any other questions for Rob? Rob, you must have done such a great job that you answered all the questions.
Well, that's great. So maybe while we're waiting just for a moment, to give you an idea on Spotlight on Messaging, its history, this product just released at the first couple of days of October. It's been on the market just now for a few weeks. Although, as I mentioned before, we've been running this type of technology at Quest for years, and We have a development team that has been ramped up for this product and continues to work on enhancements. We are already planning a follow-up release. The release that went out in early October was 7.0 version. We have a 7.1 that will be coming out in mid-December, and adding some functionality for CCR and LCR replication. That's been a big ask from a number of our beta customers. Also adding back in one of the functionalities we had in Spotlight on Exchange, which was the ability to add in arbitrary servers. So if you have a print server in your environment, or maybe from a Quest point of view, you have a message stat server or an archive manager server or something in your environment that you also want to monitor that's beyond Exchange, BlackBerry, and OCS, you'll have the ability to add those servers into your environment. They'll show up in your topology viewer, and you can run a standard server health test against it, and also run a standard, what we call Spotlight on Windows, a diagnostic console against that server. As we build this product out, obviously we love hearing from customers, and we're starting up a customer advisory group. If you're interested in being a part of that, then contact your program or sales rep, and we can get that information channeled back to myself, and we'd love to get you involved in that. We have regular beta opportunities on an ongoing basis, basically every 2 weeks when we build new features and functionality in. If you want to take a look at that test code and play around with it with a new feature that you're looking forward to, we're glad to accommodate that and get feedback on new things that we build in.
Ron Smith has just raised his electronic hand. Ron just asked another question. What level of training do you provide for the client in-house or at a client's location?
That's a good question. I'm not sure we have anything formal for this product. To be quite honest, it's fairly straightforward to run. We have documentation that we've worked pretty hard on in terms of providing evaluators guides, deployment guides, and user guides for all of the three diagnostic packs. So that's the Exchange component, the BlackBerry component, and OCS. But I'm not aware that we probably offer training through our professional services organization, but they may kick me for saying this, but I'm not sure you really need in-depth training. But if that was something that you needed set up, we'd be happy to do that, I'm sure.
Ron, if you are interested in learning more about the product, if you just contact programmers, we can talk you through that, and probably also talk about what professional services might be available for installation and training help.
Excellent.
Okay, any other questions? Don't think so. So let's move on. Thanks to Rob today for his great presentation. As I mentioned earlier, this is the second of 3 webinars on Quest Spotlight portfolio. A recording of this will be available either later today or definitely by tomorrow morning, so on-demand recording will be available. On-demand recording is also available for the first webinar, which was the Spotlight on Oracle SQL Performance. And then we have the final webinar in this series, which is Spotlight on SQL Server Performance. That's on the 19th of November. So you can access either these recordings or sign up for the webinars at programmers.com/quest, and there's a great big button there that you'll see. So for more information, Ron has mentioned several times, please contact Programmers Paradise. You can get to us either by email at info@programmers.com or through those toll-free numbers in the US and Canada. For attendees of this webinar, we're offering a special Spotlight evaluation. So if you want to evaluate the product, we will set up a free one-on-one web consult with you to talk you through the evaluation and get you started up on that, so you can get the most out of that exercise. I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar, and hope you'll join us in the future for another one. Thanks very much.